Sunday night edition of the Crash the Pond podcast. We are back after 4 games in a row where the Anaheim Ducks faced off against the LA Kings, and gotta say, Jake, it was quite the experience. It was quite the roller coaster ride, and it ended in spectacular fashion last night at Honda Center, the home finale in front of fans, which is I think a nice way for things to go out. A huge 6-2 victory for the Ducks. Ryan Miller's last game at Honda Center, a nice send off for him. So just kind of an enjoyable week to be watching this team, I would say.
It was. It definitely was. I mean, the week started off, I think, in a very good fashion. You and I both were able to see that Trevor Zegras was recalled to the taxi squad on Monday, which overall was good news for Ducks fans because I feel like the Ducks would not have done that without the impression of him coming into the lineup soon. And you even got a shout out from the Kings broadcast.
You had to put me on blast right away.
As the person who put out the information about Zegras getting recalled, even though if you were to look, my tweet came out first.
Well, okay. So first off,
I'm just giving you a hard time. Felix deserves credit.
First off, huge thank you to Jim Fox for the name drop. I was watching the game on the Kings broadcast, and at first I thought, did I just hear my name? You know, and then I rewinded, and it was like, oh crap, yeah, that was definitely a little shout out. So that was cool. It was enjoyable.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It was cool. Fanboyed a little bit there.
I mean, you should. It was a big day. Big day for Crash the Pond.
Yeah, and also pushback though on your accusation because we both get it from the same place.
I know.
So
just simply making jokes.
Yeah.
But
well, anyway.
By the way, want to simply also, if I'm in the mode of calling you out.
Oh God.
It seems as if you've let your bit die.
What bit?
The bit that you had of day of the week.
Oh, that's true. You mean holidays?
Holidays. There we go. Holidays.
Well, you know, I feel like the bits need to be organic, and sometimes, you know, you don't want to force it. I felt like maybe my last couple of attempts at it felt a little forced.
I mean, you can just admit you weren't committed to the bit. It's fine. Well, it takes commitment.
I mean, do you want me to throw at you what today's holiday is?
I don't really care.
I think you do care because you're like putting me on blast about it.
I mean, I'll put you on blast about anything. Doesn't really matter.
Well, also, okay, here's a fun one. So today is actually Orthodox Easter Sunday. So if we have any Orthodox Christian listeners, there you go. Happy Orthodox Easter Sunday. Also, this is actually a good one. This is a great one. It is, well, actually, wow, there's a lot of Easters today. It's Coptic Easter Sunday, and Coptic, I think, is like Egyptian Christianity. And it's also Ethiopian Easter Sunday. So there you go. I think that's cool. I'm glad you brought that up.
The more you learn, folks.
Okay, but this is the one I'm excited about. It is, oh God, there's actually a really bad one. Do you want to hear it?
I don't know.
It's National Infertility Survival Day. That's just, what is that? Okay, but this is the one I'm excited about. It wasn't that one. World Tuna Day. World Tuna Day. I love me some tuna, ahi tuna, tuna in a sandwich out of the can. Tuna is a very versatile and enjoyable fish, and I'm a big fan. And now Jake is turning off his mic, so I'm going to have to riff here a little bit.
I'm trying to be fed kiwi from off camera, and I am not a big kiwi fan.
Also, you're recording a podcast, so I don't know if people want to hear you eat.
Yeah, definitely. People do not want to hear me eat.
But yeah, Jake, I feel like you might be the kind of person who doesn't like seafood or doesn't like fish.
I don't like fish, but I do like shellfish.
I knew it. I knew it.
We've definitely discussed this also.
No, I don't think I've ever heard you say that. So you don't like fish. You don't like eggs. What do you like in this world?
I mean, I like things.
You're a rebel without a cause.
Yeah, I guess
a man
so.
without a man without a flag.
I guess so. So there's your bit. The bit's back, folks. Mainly because I forced it on Felix.
You completely forced it.
Well, I forced it because you committed to a bit and you didn't stick to it. You can't just commit to something and not follow through.
I didn't realize that there were all these versions of Easter today. So I'm glad that potentially we may have connected with our Orthodox Christian, Coptic Christian, Ethiopian Christian listeners. There you go. just completely off the rails. It's okay. I
That's
promise,
normal.
folks. Let's just talk about the Ducks right now, right here, right now. So, I think to me, there's definitely some takeaways from the games throughout the week. The Ducks played
Yeah.
the Kings 4 times, and some of these games were definitely entertaining. I mean, we saw Quinton Byfield's debut for the Kings, which I think was kind of cool. But I think the biggest storyline of the week to me is, as you alluded to, the fact that Trevor Zegras did get recalled, and not only got recalled, he also was put at center, and not just put at center, not just kind of thrown into the lineup, but also put between Troy Terry and Max Comtois. And I got to say, they looked very good together pretty much from the second that they were united.
Yeah, and I mean, let's also mention that the other big storyline, which may be as important as the Zegras one, is the fact that Ryan Miller announced his retirement. So just kind of beating you to that before some people call you out for not mentioning that as being one of the big storylines from the week. But
I mean, look, it's a big storyline. I think for a lot of people, the Zegras thing might have been bigger.
Yes,
so
but so
I'm not shying away from that.
Yeah,
take.
so I mean, let's just jump into it with Trevor Zegras. It was obviously a big deal, and I mean, he performed it as you would expect. And I mean, here's the thing with Zegras, and this is my big takeaway from the 3 games that he played. He looked like he was a natural at center. And I'm not even talking about faceoffs because, as you all know, I just personally don't find that faceoffs really matter that much. They're part of the game, sure, but they don't really have an influence on wins and losses overall in the grand scheme of things. Being good at them doesn't necessarily set you up for success. But the thing that Zegras did do well was he had some really nice plays, specifically in the defensive zone, where he was able to read plays perfectly and lead to breaking the puck out of the zone as a result of it. There was one specifically, I think it was in the first game against the Kings, where there was a rim around where he kind of cut it off behind the net, was able to pick it up in mid-stride, and then turn around the net, get past a forechecker, and break out of the zone as a result of it. And that's what you want to see from Zegras as a center. And not only do that, but you also have, for instance, plays like in last night's game against the Kings, where he was able to get the puck in the D zone and with the puck on his stick, drive through the transition all the way into the offensive zone. It eventually leads to a goal with a really nice play where he sets up Max Comtois. And this is exactly why you and I have for a while projected Trevor Zegras as being a center long-term, is because he's a guy that he's better with the puck on his stick. When the puck is on his stick and he has time and space, he's able to make plays with the puck. And as a center, you're just going to get more puck touches. I mean, there's even a quote that Dallas Eakins had in...
I know. It's actually baffling to read that.
It is because I'm trying to find the quote right now, but here it is from Dallas Eakins. This was in Eric Stevens' article, but it says, when he's on left wing, he constantly has these boards on his left side and limits his space. This kid can find space, and the more space he has, the more offense he can create. I've always just equated offensive space. Putting him in the middle gives him a ton of room on either side to either make plays or find more space. That's the biggest thing for me. And then he also had the thing I've been really impressed with from him in the first couple of games here is his responsible play without the puck. We know where he's going to go with it. We're not going to take that away from him. Thing I was a wee bit worried about was how he was going to play defensively, and so far he has done very, very well. So
it's just my big takeaway from that is, well, why was he ever at the wing? Like, why? If you know that he's the kind of guy who can thrive with more room, why did he ever play at the wing? And I think that my theory on this is that they were not sure that he could play center. And I think that part of the reason why he started at the wing was to see if he could just kind of handle.
I think it was a decree from above.
Maybe. Well, what are you saying? That Eakins didn't think he would be a center? And I think then someone stepped in?
No, what I'm saying is I think the reason why he was on wing was not a Dallas Eakins thing. It was a Bob Murray thing. And that is
possible.
Based upon the quotes that we had, it seemed as if the Ducks' plan for Trevor Zegras this year was to have him play in the AHL for a bunch on the wing to ease him into the NHL professional game, and then eventually call him up later in the season to get 20-some-odd games in the wing as NHL experience, then basically jump into center next season. That's at least if you're going to look at the quotes that Bob Murray had, which I have some issues with on the whole, the big transparency quotes that he had. But if you were to take some of it at face value, it sounded like he was ahead of schedule by their read on him. And by that, it seems like their schedule was this entire season he would be on the wing, and then they'd switch him to center next season. And so to me, that almost sounds like that, going with this Aikens quote, makes it seem like the reason why he was on wing in the first place and wasn't at center wasn't a Dallas Aikens thing. It was a Bob Murray thing.
I mean, it's possible.
It's reading into a lot.
You are definitely, as you tend to do, drawing some
Sure. I admit it.
Conclusions.
Fully admit it. It's important to admit when you're taking these jumps, though.
Okay, but so I think it is possible that they were not sure that he would be responsible enough defensively to be a center, and he showed enough of that at the wing to where they felt comfortable shifting him over. And what's funny is that playing wing and center and the defensive responsibilities there are really not that similar. And so I don't know how much information you could really take away for a guy's ability to play center when he's playing at the wing. Also, starting him at center, what would have been the big risk? The team at that point was already kind of slipping out of the playoff picture. It wasn't life or death anymore. Anyway, we don't need to rehash that.
Well, also my other kind of thing on that is, why not just have him at center in the AHL? Why start him at wing in the AHL this year?
Well, I think it's because he was playing wing at the World Juniors. He hadn't played center in almost a year.
But he was playing center in college. It's not like the World Juniors were like 10 games.
Yes, but the last time he played center was in last March. It was a long time ago. And I think that's probably why. I'm not trying to justify it. I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time rehashing that debate. But the point is, he looked great at center. And I think what's interesting is that he looked like a natural. He looked like someone who, I mean, shocker, has been doing that their whole lives. And also, what stood out to me the most was, and you already kind of touched on this, is that in all three zones, just so involved, getting back to retrieve pucks, breaking pucks out, transitioning them up ice. I think, and this is something that we've talked about on previous podcasts, is that him at center completely maximizes his toolkit. It makes him it allows him to add the most value possible to his team. And one of the big questions we had was, well, once Trevor Zegras gets put at center, what kind of value add is that going to be? What kind of piece is he going to be at 5-on-5? And particularly with the Terry and Comtois, with Terry and Comtois at his wing, we saw that we know what we're going to get from Comtois. He's a finisher. He's a guy who's going to drive to the net, find those quiet areas in the slot, and put pucks away. We know Terry's the guy who's going to win board battles, help transition the puck, get shots off. Mm-hmm. We didn't necessarily know, though, how Trevor Zegras would fit into that equation. And I think we got a pretty resounding answer. He's the guy. He's a transition beast. He's a guy who's going to go back, get pucks, bring it up ice, controlled zone entries, going to find his teammates, going to get shots off. He's just so full of energy out there. And that is something that I don't know he would have. Yeah, I don't know if I saw that coming right away.
And one thing that I want to mention is, I'm looking at some of his numbers from his time as a winger as compared to as a center, and they were kind of all over the place. And granted, it's a 3-game sample. They could still end up all over the place at the end over these next 4 games, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob Larson can look great for 3 games.
And these were 3 games against the Kings, who are the second worst team in the division next to the Ducks. So who knows how it goes in the next games against the Blues and the Wild. But if you look at his games prior to this, his expected goals for percentage was really up and down and all over the place. And it really kind of led itself to the fact that as a winger, he really couldn't make his impact on the game. And it really felt like a lot of times his puck touches were limited. He was really dependent on what center he had because of getting the puck out of the zone, whether he would be able to even get it into transition. And so it was really all over the place in terms of expected goals for generation, with most of his games ending up in the kind of at 0.3-ish, 0.4 in that range, with some being higher, some being lower, but overall kind of being in that range over the time. So by that, I mean he would be on the ice for a total of 0.4 expected goals for, which is not that great. It's not horrible, but it's not what you expect from someone that you're labeling to be a potential point per game player, or someone you hope that could become a point per game player in the next couple of years. And over these last 3 games, though, 0.76, expected goals for in the first game against the Kings, 0.69, and sorry, that was his first game against the Kings, 0.69 in his second game, 0.99 in last night's game, and all this while being well above 50% expected goals for percentage, with the last two games actually being absolutely stellar defensively, 0.22 and 0.2 expected goals against. So it's not only that he's generating a lot of offense for, they're really limiting the amount of chances against, which is exactly what you want to see from a potential top line moving forward. And so Zegras is not going to be the only person behind it, but as the center, he makes a bigger impact and has a bigger impact on the ice because the puck's on his stick more. He's the one driving the play. As a center, it's much easier to be the person driving the bus on a line and being the one driving the play on the line. And I think that's what we've seen from Zegras on the whole. And I think that this is something that can really carry over to whatever winger you put with him. Obviously, I think this line works, and I think there's I think it really optimizes a lot of different things. But I think you can put Zegras with a whole host of other wingers and really help him and have success there, because we're seeing Zegras as being a primary driver of this success on this line. Having said that, I would not break it up. Leave them together. They seem to work together. They seem to work well together, and they seem to complement each other's games well.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, I mean, for everything that you said, I think part of the reason why those numbers look so good is because Zegras is a very intelligent player. Like, not only does he have the physical tools and the skills, but he thinks the game at a very high level. I mean, he was able to be thrown into the fire. And sure, it's against the Kings. It's games that may or may not have been that meaningful in the grand scheme of things, but still, it's NHL level competition.
He was still against Kopitar at various points in time, who was still like a really good center in the NHL.
And he was making quick reads. He was making intelligent passes. He wasn't forcing anything. He really, I mean, and maybe this sounds like we're being overly positive, but I mean, we went back and we've been watching his shifts, after the fact, and there really aren't that many holes in his game.
Nope.
That he didn't make these kind of blunders that maybe you'd expect a rookie center to make. There weren't missed assignments defensively. And look, those may come. We've seen him in the past have some mistakes here and there. I don't expect him to be perfect all the way throughout his career, but for him to make it look that easy, I think really speaks not that much about his physical tools, but really just about how intelligent he is. And also, I think maybe the thing that has gone really underrated in his game is that he skates very well. He's a very fast skater. He's strong on his edges.
He's worked on his strides a lot in the last summer. I mean, I mentioned this before, but
he's very agile as well. He's quick.
Yeah, Elite Prospects had a really good, I think it was a YouTube video or something like that I watched during World Juniors, and they mentioned that he's been someone that's been in Anaheim prior to the World Juniors all of last summer, basically working on his skating stride, working with the Ducks skills coaches to essentially rework his skating stride.
Larry Barron, give him a little shout out.
So he's able to get more power. I think it's more so that he's kind of taking his strides over his skates and generating more power as compared to letting the legs flare out a bit. And so he's worked hard on really getting that skating stride to be a spot where it optimizes his body as compared to where it was prior to being with the Ducks. And so that's one thing that he's definitely seeing benefits from as he's jumped into the NHL and been able to utilize that. And I mean, here's the interesting thing I actually realized on Zegras. So he now has 3 points over his last 3 games, 2 points last night with a goal and an assist, and had another assist on Friday night. So all 3 of those points are primary points. What's funny though is that he doesn't have a power play point really. Like, I don't know how many power play points he really has at the NHL level. I don't think it's that many as of yet. And so if you look at his time in the AHL, the majority of his production, I'd say probably about half of his points or something around there, have come on the power play versus at 5-on-5. So granted, 3-game sample size, small sample size, not saying
very small sample,
it's not going to continue. But if he's able to kind of keep up some 5-on-5 scoring at a relatively decent pace and add some power play scoring, that's going to be a recipe for success long-term for him to keep up scoring at a point per game pace. The 5-on-5 may fall off, but eventually that power play scoring that he's been kind of known for in the AHL will come in.
Oh, absolutely. And I think he will be a better 5-on-5 player by being at center.
Yes.
I think that it's funny because I think we were saying this on last week's podcast that Dallas Eakins will say things. He will have comments that are like, yeah, we agree. That is the correct takeaway, but we'll make decisions that kind of run to the contrary or just not really follow up on those words. And this is another case of that, where everything I think he said about Zegras at the wing was absolutely true. You're not going to get the most out of this specific player and his skill set when he's at the wing. And so that's what you're seeing now at center. And just to kind of add to the point on skating, also Zegras has 0 power play points in the NHL this season.
There you go.
To add to the skating, though, I think that, yeah, his skating stride looks really fluid to me. And I'm not going to pretend I'm some skating expert or anything like that. There are people who make careers out of this. But from what I understand about skating, like he just looks so agile. He's not hunched over. He's not overly upright. He's got that proper ankle flexion. His knees don't come all the way over the foot. So he's just looking really good out there. And yeah, I think that, we've also been really driving the bus this season for Troy Terry. And I think it's also great to see Terry get onto that line. And I think that his skill set does mesh perfectly with Zegras, because he's a guy who's just going to help keep the chains moving. And with Comtois, I think that although, look, at least I've harped a lot on his 5-on-5 game this season, I do think that putting him next to 2 players like that with his finishing ability, it just seems like it's a recipe for success. And Eric Stevens, you brought up the article he wrote today. Is this Anaheim's future top line? Could this be one of their top lines for years to come? It's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible for that to happen. And I mean, that's obviously a lot has to happen. Comtois needs to continue shooting. Zegras needs to keep developing, but there's the chance that this could be their top line. And that's an exciting thing for Ducks fans to really think about. And I think the line can work because, I mean, Comtois is not going to necessarily continue shooting at 16 to 20% throughout the rest of his career. But
having an elite playmaker like Zegras next to him, though, is going to help with that.
And the thing that Comtois doesn't do well, though, is the defensive side of the game, which is something Terry actually is very good at and is very underrated at. And so having 2 guys like Zegras and Terry, and Zegras in short, in the small sample size that we have, has shown that he has the ability in the D zone that maybe some people were worried about with him, but he's just a smart player, and smart players can make plays in the D zone. And so that can really work well with those 3, and Terry also making that up. And basically Comtois, all he has to do is go to the front of the net.
Yeah, exactly. And he has that. Look, we still don't know for sure that he'll remain a high kind of finishing shooter in the NHL, but look, the sample's getting bigger and bigger, and we have seen that he'll probably not remain at this level, but he might remain kind of an above average shooter. Who knows? But playing next to an elite playmaker like Zegras, and also Troy Terry, who's a very good passer. If you look at like Corey Schneider's tracking data, he's a guy who's very good at getting the puck into the slot. And so, look, we're being very positive here, folks. You might even say it's positive Sunday. It's positive May. It is the month of May after all. So we got to start on a positive note. And yes, it is a small sample, but I think that it makes sense. I mean, a lot of this makes sense.
Here, you want some numbers? So this is from Natural Stat Trick, mainly because they're the place that it's easiest to look up line data. So in the 3 games that they've played at 5-on-5, they've Zegras, Comtois, Terry have 34 minutes and 7 seconds together, 62.69% Corsi for percentage, 100% goals for percentage, 3 goals for, 0 against, 70.86 expected goals for percentage, 1.8 expected goals for, 0.74 expected goals against. This is per Natural Stat Trick. 21 scoring chances for, only 8 against. 7 high danger chances for, only 1 against. 2 high danger goals for, 0 against. So those are some pretty good numbers. On ice shooting percentage at 11%, on ice save percentage at 100. So most likely they're going to have some goals go in against them. You can't expect 100% goals for, or
no,
that stay the place. 100% on ice save percentage to stay the case, but 11% shooting percentage actually isn't that high for an on ice shooting percentage of a line. If they do have that high end talent.
What was the expected goals percentage?
Expected goals for percentage is at 70.86%.
See, so for evolving hockey, it's at 64.8. So regardless, it's very good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
overall, really good numbers from this line. Over their
and the eye test is there too. I mean, you saw it in last night's game. If you want to maybe touch on that one, since it's the most recent, and then we can after that just go over maybe some highlights from what we saw last week. But the Ducks won it 6-2, and you saw Max Comtois with a highlight reel assist, if we'll call it that. I mean, the puck was sitting behind the net. He dives with one hand on his stick and scoops it to the front of the net and gets Trevor Zegras a goal. Trevor Zegras returned the favor later in the game, dashing down the ice. And then as he's curling behind the net, just kind of drops off a backhand pass into the slot. Comtois is able to put it away. So those two, again, like it's a perfect yin and a yang, a playmaker and a finisher. And you really saw it in last night's game.
Yeah, you did. And that, I mean, one thing I want to mention on that second goal, the one by Comtois, that play really sets up from Zegras getting the puck in his own zone.
Yep, exactly. He brought it all the way down.
And he transitions. And one thing that I thought was interesting was he had the ability to stay wide with the puck and really try to set up a 2-on-2 with Terry, with him staying wide and Terry staying wide on the other side. But he made it a point to cut back across, attack the Kings defender, and really bring the puck into traffic, which is something that you have to be a very confident player to be able to do. And he brings it into traffic, which draws some Kings defenders to him, drops it off to Terry. Terry then sets it up back to him, and he's able to battle through more guys, draws more defenders to him. And the thing that's so important about that is he's drawing guys to him, and he understands that that means someone's going to be open as a result. If you're drawing guys,
it's all intentional too.
Yeah, he knows that if two Kings defensemen are coming towards him, or Kings players, that means someone's bound to be open, and he sees that it's Comtois right in front of the net. Comtois is wide open, gives it to him with a beautiful feed, and Comtois is able to bury it.
And that's what Comtois is good at, is driving to the net and putting pucks away.
Exactly, and finding the soft spots on the ice. And if you have Zegras, a guy that's going to draw attention, and he's a guy that not only can draw attention, but pick a pass to the guy that is open as a result of getting that attention, that's a recipe for success right there.
100%. And so, by the way, that was Max Comtois' 14th goal of the season. And look, I know that we've already kind of covered this topic on the show.
Oh, we have a question about it incoming, so just save it.
Okay. Well, just so everyone knows, I was going to talk about his upcoming contract, but
we have a
if
question
we have a question about it, then that's all the better. And then just in some other takeaways from that game, I mean, Max Jones getting on the board, which is good to see. Jacob Larson just piling up the points. Jacob Larson putting up good underlying numbers this week, 2 assists in this game. So look, I'll say that
Danton Heinen with a goal, Derek Grant with a goal.
Danton Heinen with a very nice goal.
Yeah.
A one-time blast. But Larson, look, he's played better as of late, and it's been next to Cam Fowler playing on his off wing. So I will give Jacob Larson a little credit here. And look, maybe it's the switch to white tape. Maybe that's what it was. But whatever it is, he's has looked a little more solid. You know, I think part of the reason why Larson maybe does a little better next to a guy like Fowler is because he's not tasked with really much of the breakout duties. So he's going to defer to Fowler, and maybe having a reduction in the amount of decision making he has to do. Maybe that helps the overall numbers.
Yep. And just from Evolving Hockey, Larson's numbers over this past week in the 4 games. The first game of the week, he was at 47% expected goals for percentage. Next game, 63%. Next game, 80%. Next game, 59.9%. So he actually had a very good week. And one thing that you mentioned that I think is important to note is he's doing it playing next to Cam Fowler. And we've seen over the past 2 seasons that Cam Fowler has an ability to elevate the play of his partner. We saw it with Eric Goodbranson. We saw it with Michael Del Zotto. We saw it with Yanni Hakanpää. We've seen it with a lot of different guys that once they get with Cam Fowler, a lot of their numbers tend to increase. And so while, yes, I would love for this to be a case of Jacob Larson having improving play, and that really sets him up to be a more meaningful piece moving forward, I don't know if I necessarily buy that. I think this is just more of a confirmation of how good Cam Fowler has been over the last 2 years, that he can make Jacob Larson into a decent to good defenseman.
Yeah, I mean, it does show that at the very least, Larson didn't just crater that pairing. I think that's important to note because he has been on, okay pairings and has not done well. So to see him do well in this scenario, granted against the Kings, but I still think that it's something to note and to give him a little credit. And outside of that, the rest of the games during the week, I mean, they weren't all this pretty as the one on Sunday night. But we saw a good game from Jamie Drysdale. Earlier in the week, we saw Sam Steele get on the board. So just kind of lot of good things, I think, for the Ducks sprinkled into this week
Yep.
of action against the Kings.
2-2 over the course of the week for the Ducks. And
yep,
I mean,
taking the split.
The other big news for the Ducks is midway through the week, Ryan Miller announced that he would be retiring from the NHL. I believe this was Thursday when that news came out, right? I believe it was Thursday ahead of the Friday game, and then it came out that Gibson would start Friday, Miller would start Saturday. And it really set up for a nice night on Saturday. We've already touched on the game and what happened on the ice, but I thought it was nice. I mean, the fact that Miller had this long press conference on Thursday where I don't know if you were able to fully watch all of it, but they were able to have a lot of reporters from Buffalo jump in. They had his brother Drew Miller, who kind of funny. Drew Miller starts his career with the Ducks. Ryan Miller ends his career with the Ducks, and had some nice messages from a lot of former teammates. And I mean, Ryan Miller's one of the greatest goalies in NHL history, and is going to go down as, at least right now, the best American goalie in NHL history for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the 2010 Olympic run that he had was absolutely insane. His early years in Buffalo, where he was one of the best goalies in the league. He was a Vezina Trophy winner over that span, and really was just one of the best goalies in the league. There's really no other way to put it. And then eventually moved to St. Louis for one deadline stretch and a little bit underwhelmed a bit. They went to Vancouver and still was solid in Vancouver.
Was very solid in Vancouver.
And then came to the Ducks and really understood that he was going from a situation where he was the starting goalie in Vancouver and was coming to the Ducks where he was going to be the backup. Like, he wasn't the starter ahead of John Gibson. He was the backup.
And still did very well, early on as the Ducks backup. He was still very good. Kind of took a bit of a dip this season. But yeah, I thought that the way that they did it, I thought it was very classy. Yeah. I think it's very cool, and I think it really speaks to how well respected John Gibson, how well respected Ryan Miller is within the organization and around the league.
Hockey
and look,
overall, yeah,
and look, you hear him talk, you hear how he speaks and how thoughtful he is. And I mean, I remember in the interview I did with Stolars, he talked about how helpful Miller has been with his own development. And I just think that's really cool that he takes the time out of his own training, of his own schedule to help others. And it's just good to see. And there's been a lot of talk about what the future holds for him, what kind of, he said that he wants to stay in the game. So we'll see. I don't like diving into that too much when it's just more about celebrating a guy's career, but yep. I think whatever he ends up wanting to do in hockey afterwards, someone will give him that opportunity.
Yep. And I could definitely see that the Ducks potentially giving him an opportunity if he wants to join management or something along those lines to provide him that opportunity in the future. And so overall, though, really nice night. Him picking up the 6-2 win in his final game at Honda Center. It sounds as if they're going to play him one more game. I think that game would have been a little bit nice to just be a swan song. With his family being able to come out on the ice afterwards and the team picture and the Kings being able to congratulate him. But it was overall a really nice night, a really nice send-off. The fact that all the Ducks players were wearing Ryan Miller jerseys and warm-ups. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Even though he only played 4 seasons with the Ducks, it really showed the kind of respect that he had in the locker room and how much he meant to the players on the team, and how much even him coming back to play this season and what overall amounted to a lost season for the Ducks franchise, how much that did matter to the players on the ice and what that meant to them to play another season with him. And so you saw that even with the Kings players coming over. You saw that with Kopitar, giving him a long conversation. Dustin Brown, a teammate from 2010. Jonathan Quick, someone who probably looked up to Ryan Miller, who was the third goalie on that 2010 team. And so you could really see where his place in the game is. And he's going to go, Ryan Miller, first ballot Hall of Famer?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got all the accolades. He's got the longevity in the NHL. He's got international accomplishments. So I don't see why not.
Vezina Trophy winner, even though only one time, but still has the Vezina Trophy.
I do want to point out though that if you just look at GSAX, so goal saved above expected, that year in 2010, 09-10, where he won the Vezina Trophy, he was second in the NHL with 25.08 GSAX, so goals saved above expected. Guess who was first? And by how much?
2009, 2010.
You don't get to look it up, by the way.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to rack my head on who would have been good in 2009, 2010.
Do you want me to just tell you?
Is it Yaroslav Halak?
No.
Okay.
No, he was good in the playoffs. He was actually 6th that year, though, in
Okay.
GSAX.
Well, that was a decent poll by me.
Henrik Lundqvist.
And not too shocking. Probably
No,
should
but
have guessed that.
but the number is the
40?
bewildering part. 53.
Holy moly!
He doubled Miller that year.
Here's the question:
Mm-hmm.
Did the Rangers make the playoffs that year?
Probably not.
And that is probably the reason why Ryan Miller won the Vezina.
But he wasn't like a terrible choice, though. I mean, he was second in GSAX, so it's not as if it was like pure highway robbery. Although maybe Lundqvist and Rangers fans would tell me differently. So yeah, it's just a cool moment. It's one of those guys who really deserves it. And look, we also saw this week. We don't know what the future will hold for David Backes. They gave him a little bit of a press conference there where he got to talk to the media and speculate on his future. So we will see. Did we cover that last week?
Yeah, because that happened last week because he didn't play in any of the games this week, and
that's right.
Kind of seems like I would assume that he's gonna get in a game in St. Louis, though. You would think
that would be nice, and especially because there will be fans in attendance. I mean, they play Monday night, so we'll find out.
I would assume that he plays both games in St. Louis.
That would be pretty cool. So yeah, I think, look, again, it's been such a dismal season in Anaheim. It's been such a, when the games were still in the balance, when the season was still in the balance, when the games mattered, it was obviously very, very frustrating. And we've had a lot of our quibbles with how they handled things, but at least things are kind of ending on a positive note, just honoring Ryan Miller, and it seems like now they're really focusing on the youth. The other thing I did want to mention, and maybe we'll take a break here right after this, is Simon Benoit getting called up. And he's been a really great story. I mean, he was undrafted, earned an AHL opportunity, and then eventually got an entry-level contract, at the NHL level. And so, look, not to toot my own horn, but I distinctly remember seeing him at Ducks training camp.
I think I was there with you.
You were there when he hadn't been signed yet. And I did point out that guy's going to make it. And sure enough, he cracked the lineup. And,
he at least has played in the NHL.
Exactly. And look, he wasn't spectacular. He wasn't jaw-dropping, but he did make a couple nice plays. I believe Friday night, he had one really good diving poke check to break up a King's rush. He looked good along the boards. His breakout passing, I didn't see a whole lot there. I don't think that he was kind of deferring a little bit, but he looks solid enough. And I think
he's looked more useful than Andy Walensky has.
Yes, absolutely. Well, he's just more athletic. He's more mobile. It's funny because like with the broadcast talking so much about how he's 6'3" and them really focusing on that as opposed to kind of the great backstory that he has. But I think that the thing with him is that he does just bring more to the table than a Walensky type. And so still kind of crazy that Cody Curran hasn't gotten his opportunity.
Absolutely bizarre.
I mean, I went on a rant about that last week and it still holds true, but hey, at the very least, Simon Benoit is a guy who deserves that opportunity, and it's just cool to see it.
Yeah, and one other thing before we jump into the break, want to make note of 3 of the 4 games this week. The jersey matchup for the Ducks and Kings. The Ducks, the Kings, I believe that they had decided early on that 3 out of these 4 games, the first game of this week, they wore their reverse retro jersey, and then the other ones, they were actually wearing their white early 90s, late 80s throwback. I
love that jersey.
It's the
chevron jersey.
The chevron jersey is so much better than their current jersey. Like it's just significantly better. But the Ducks, I found it interesting. They made the decision to wear the orange against the chevron jersey, and the orange with the Mighty Ducks logo, including for the fan appreciation night game. They could have just worn the black jersey, but they made a point to wear the orange.
Yeah.
Is there something to read into there?
Yes. Give me the conspiracy theory. Give me your conspiracy theory.
Are the Ducks going to change to the orange jerseys as primaries? Who knows? I hope so.
I kind of hope that they don't do that jersey, make that specific orange jersey the home jersey. I would love to see that template, be the home jersey, make a black version of it with the orange
Get
trim.
out of here.
What do you mean?
Keep if you're going to do it, just do the orange. Go bold. Stop with the black.
No, keep that as the third and just have that exact jersey and give it the orange trim and have it black.
No, stop with the black jerseys.
Well, I think what would be cool actually about having it black is that you can make the backdrop for the Mighty Duck logo have that, have the triangle or the diamond, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, have the triangle be orange as opposed to kind of that silver or that goldish color. Or
just leave the orange jersey as is and just go eggplant and jade for home and away.
Well, they're not going to do that.
No way.
Like let's just dismiss that out of hand. But yeah, it's funny because I put out that I think that's the look that they should go with, and it's got some pushback. I don't know what the approval rating is on this jersey within the fan base.
I'd be curious. A lot of people like it.
I think so too. I think that if you polled people what should be the home jersey next season, the current home or that, I would venture to guess that it would be slightly in favor of the orange.
Well,
I don't think it would be like a landslide, but I think that there's a lot of support for that jersey.
I think if you were, Lewis brings up the good point. The thing about these jerseys, I think that the numbers in person are really nice that they're black. I like the black with the gold and orange trim. But on TV, they're very hard to read.
Give it a white trim. This is or make the numbers white.
Make the numbers white or do a much bigger white trim on it.
I would just make the numbers white with black trim.
Yeah.
And that's problem solved.
Yep. If we put it on Twitter, though, and did a poll or asked people, they would all say eggplant and jade as the home.
I'm curious what the statistics would be on that.
I'll put out a Twitter poll after this. People in the Twitch chat, just as a little summary, we have 33 people in the Twitch chat right now. What would you want as the home jerseys? Would you like this orange jersey, the current one, or the current home and away, the current third orange jersey becoming the home and away, or go back to eggplant and jade?
Do you want my opinion on this?
What?
I think that I prefer the eggplant and jade if they're gonna switch things around. But yeah, I anyway, I don't know where I kind of lost my trail of thought, but I just want to say that with that look, it's just interesting that they did it at this time and 3 games in a row to end the season. It's just interesting.
So I'm looking at it, and I would, out of everyone coming in right now, majority are eggplant and jade. There are some oranges coming in. No one defending the current home and away set that I can see, though. I'd say 90%, 75% are eggplant and jade. The rest are orange as the home jersey.
I would be fine with even just that jersey, that orange jersey with the Web D as the logo. Even that would be more exciting.
Well, do that as your third jersey.
Yeah. The thing is, I actually like the Web D. I don't want to see it completely go out of the palette.
It's a secondary logo. It's a shoulder patch.
And that's the thing is, and you touched on this on the last podcast, is that the Mighty Duck Head, that's this team's history. That's what they're about. And I think that get back to it. Maybe some people think it's cartoony. Maybe some people think it's not a serious logo, but it's what sets this franchise apart. And especially if you go back to that eggplant and jade, then now you're cooking with gas.
Yeah. Caleb Haley also says, I don't mind the current jersey, but eggplant and jade is just a lot better. Yep. All right. Time for a word from our sponsor, Felix.
Yep. Take it away, Jake.
Oh, great. Thanks. Flowers are blooming.
I can do it if you want.
No, I'm good. The flowers are blooming. The grass is growing, and it's time to chop the weeds. Thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped. You can trim your holes safely and efficiently. I'm talking about ball trimmers. Manscaped, the global leader in men's below-the-waist grooming, have an exclusive offer for our audience. Use code CTP to get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Join the other 2 million men who trust Manscaped. They are here to make sure you are trimmed and smelling nice. After all, it's time for some spring cleaning. So Felix, spring has sprung and Manscaped has the best tools to get you ready. I've mentioned this product a bunch. My wife is someone that constantly badgers me a little bit about my nose hair. It's a situation. And Manscaped has the Weed Whacker.
Don't you have ear hair too?
I do not have ear hair. I do not.
Not yet.
I do not. I do not.
Not yet. You will.
Thanks. I mean, sure. But the Weed Whacker is a nose and ear hair trimmer that provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in all those delicate holes. No more gross nose hairs flying in the wind, and it uses a 9,000 RPM motor, 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. Manscaped is making whacking your weeds a time to look forward to, delivering maximum confidence while providing hygiene. And then, I mean, Felix, speaking of hygiene, what else do they have?
Yeah, so Manscaped has formulations to keep you fresh and ready for everything that comes your way all day. So the Crop Preserver, it's an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. So look, gotta say, it's starting to get hot outside. I actually had to use my air conditioning this week. It was that hot. Maybe that's just me being soft. Who knows?
Yeah, that's
and
what it is.
You know, you don't want to have that sticking going on down there. Look, if you're a guy, you know what I'm talking about. It's uncomfortable. It's the worst. And so the Crop Preserver will help you avoid that just awful scenario. You'll also find the Crop Reviver. It's a spray-on toner, which will keep you smelling fresh down there, just like spring flowers. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they also have a cologne, which is light and approachable and gentlemanly.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
all the
so,
right ways.
With things opening back up, maybe you want to go out to a bar. Look, you want to smell nice. You want to impress. Good first impression is the only impression, and that cologne will help you.
Yeah, exactly. So you can smell good and feel good this spring. You can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code CTP at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code CTP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code CTP at manscaped.com. It's spring cleaning, baby, and your balls will thank you.
Boom. Thank you, Manscaped.
Thank you, Manscaped. So
that was a fun one. I enjoyed that.
Anything else from the past week that you want to jump into? We have some questions from Twitter that we can start getting into.
I thought you were going to ask me anything more about Manscaped.
I mean, anything more about Manscaped?
I did get the lawnmower 4.0 in the mail. Nothing. Just saying. I'm going to use it.
People listening did not hear anything about that.
Hey, you know what? I'm doing this for the people.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, outside of that from the last week, I think it is worth noting with a lot of the kind of positive things we said that, look, they were playing the Kings, kind of a weird scenario with the games not really mattering quite as much. But look, like I said earlier, it's still NHL competition. It's still live action games. And I think it's just important to take the good, maybe give it the proper context, but still note that these good things did happen, and it does bode well for the future. There's 4 games left in the season. Very excited to see how that Zegras line will perform. And it's something to kind of keep monitoring. Also, Ryan Getzlaf at the wing. That is a narrative, a subplot, a theme, whatever you want to call it, that is just not going away. And I'm ready for it to go away, personally, because I don't think he looks good at all at the wing next to Derek Grant and Nick Delorier.
Nope. I mean, he should just be playing center if he's going to be playing.
The funny thing is that there will be shifts where they will control a little bit in the offensive zone, and you can see that it's because of Getzloff.
Getzloff, yeah.
Exactly.
The numbers took a nosedive once Getzloff was not on that line anymore.
Yeah.
And I really feel bad for Danton Heinen because it's not his fault.
Yeah, exactly. So the lineup decisions continue to still baffle. I mean, Sam Carrick inexplicably is just like a mainstay in the lineup. I legitimately don't know.
Play Jacob Perreault over him. See what you have in Perreault.
Yeah, exactly. Like it boggles the mind that guys like that are still getting looks, but it's Positive Sunday. It's Orthodox Easter Sunday, so I'm not going to go too crazy here with the negativity.
Yep, and one thing I do want to mention for anyone that is pro-tank and are worried about what last night's victory did. So the Ducks are currently still second worst in the league. It seems as if Buffalo is pretty locked in with the Ducks have a 6-point advantage on the Buffalo Sabres with 6 games left. So more likely than not, the Sabres are going to finish last in the league. The Ducks are currently only 2 points back, though, of New Jersey, but New Jersey does have a game in hand. And the thing for the Ducks is they're going on the road and aren't going to be playing the Kings anymore. So I actually feel pretty comfortable that the Ducks are probably going to finish in this 30th spot. I think that these wins don't really affect
Also,
too much of
I
that.
do want to point out, and this is something we talked about last week, but I want to reiterate because my belief in this is getting stronger and stronger. This is a good year to be bad and just not necessarily be the absolute worst and get the first overall pick. If the Ducks end up getting the 4th, 5th, 6th pick, it's really not the end of the world.
Real quick, the big thing with I think staying 30th as compared to 29th, and this is actually a big deal this year. No, there is, because Seattle.
Yes.
If you are second worst, you have the second best odds at the lottery. The lowest you can drop is 4th. If you're the third worst team in the league, you have the 4th best odds because Seattle automatically gets the 3rd. So basically, if you finish 29th, you can fall all the way to 6th, and if you're 30th, you can only fall to 4th. So
that is a good point.
There is an actual decent difference between those. It's not like it's nothing.
Well, I just mean like, you know, I'll see people after games like after last night where the Ducks win and they're like, oh no, we absolutely need the last spot. It's like, you know, this is a year where a little bit of variance is not a little bit
agreed.
A little bit above that is not the end of the world.
I think finishing 30th is important as compared to 29th though.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep. And so I think with that, let's jump into some questions. So we got some from Twitter that I do want to jump into before we get into the Twitch chat. And so we got these kind of two. One was the first one, and someone kind of followed up with the second question. Says, this is from Joe at TTID96, good Spurs fan over there. That says, a question for tomorrow. How many more, this came yesterday, how many more wins would the Ducks have had this year with 56 games of Trevor Zegras at center playing legitimate minutes?
How many more wins?
Yes.
That is a big question. So, I mean, let's see here. Let me pull up the standings. How many wins do the Ducks have right now?
I mean, the Ducks have 10 regulation wins.
Okay, well, they have 16 wins overall. So, I think if Trevor Zegras plays the entire season at center, playing legitimate minutes, that still probably doesn't completely offset Derek Grant, Jacob Larson, you know, all these kind of black holes on the roster. Maybe a couple wins better.
I think 4 or 5 wins. I think about a 10-point difference.
5?
4 or 5.
Okay. I mean, that's maybe I'm not being...
Think about how many games there were that the Ducks just couldn't score, and that was the reason they lost.
That's true, but I also think like their win column is really propped up by the fact that they won so many games in overtime and shootout, and so that is variance right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is the possibility where I guess maybe some of those wins
that could swing back the other way.
Well, I think the other thing is some of those overtime wins may have become regulation wins instead.
Exactly.
So those are still wins. This is why I think 3-2-1 is the way to go, because it would have changed some things there.
I 100% agree with that, but I think we're both in agreement that having Zegras would have helped the season.
Yes, and
overall,
even Wilder Wing asked as a follow-up, how many more on top of that had Aikens not played Grant or Larson and left Terry, Henrique, Heinen, Mahura, and Backus in the whole year?
This is the big one. This is the bigger question to me. And look, we did a lot of projecting before the season of where this team could finish, looking at different models. And with a fully optimized lineup, I played around with the war roster generator quite a bit that Jay Fresh had before the season. And the Ducks were like a team that could have maybe flirted with that 4th position.
Especially if they had, this year with how like no team really wants that 4th position in the West.
Yeah, in the Honda West. And so I think that if they had a fully optimized lineup, if they had not, and look, there is something to be said for the injuries that they had this year and the fact that they got no goaltending after basically the first month. I mean, Gibson's game took a total dive. I still think that with an optimal lineup, they would have had a much better chance of withstanding those issues. And I still don't think they would have made the playoffs. I don't think that they would have gotten into that Final Four, but I think they could have at least been maybe like the Sharks or the Coyotes. And look,
I think they could have been like a 500 points percentage team.
And I think that for the perception of this team, that would have made such a difference.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, instead of talking about this rebuild being extended, instead of talking about the ineptitude of Dallas Eakins, you're talking about, hey, this is a roster that can still somewhat compete. And I don't think that there were these huge drop-offs in performance from the veterans that even if the roster had been optimal, they would have still struggled. A lot of the struggles for Raquel, for Henrique early on were shooting percentage based. And so that would have turned, that's something that could easily swing back the other way in a different scenario. So, yeah, I mean, that is kind of the weird thing about this season is that the Ducks, I think, could have been better. I think they could have easily had as many points as like the Sharks, Kings, maybe even Coyotes, but they didn't do themselves any favors in the way that they built this thing. And it is interesting though that having that opinion, does that invalidate the opinion that Bob Murray put together a bad roster? Because that is also something that we've talked about.
I mean, I think what it says is that the roster that he put together isn't necessarily bad, but the way that he's had, because the additions he made added negative value to it, and he went out and got Derek Grant in the offseason. He didn't have to sign him. He would have had a better roster as a result of that.
Kevin Shattenkirk
has been fine. I will stand by that this entire time.
Well, I know, but my point is, I think that we were somewhat optimistic before the season started that the Ducks couldn't push for fourth. And I just, the way that the season went to me still doesn't necessarily speak to the true talent of the roster. That being said, due to the lack of top end talent, their margin for error was very thin.
Yes.
And having a drop off in goaltending, having injuries, it really it swept the rug out from underneath them. Also, I do think that, having a system like Dallas Eakins that doesn't really elevate the roster, that doesn't help either.
Yep.
And I think that may have been the part that we overrated before the season, is that we were of the opinion that, Dallas Eakins didn't really show much of anything in year one behind the bench, but with a better roster, with another year to instill his principles, you would maybe see an improvement. And instead we saw maybe a step back from Dallas Eakins in year two as head coach. And that was something exactly. And that was something that I don't think we saw coming, that all these just crazy decisions.
Yep.
I mean, remember when we started
scratching Troy Terry multiple games in a row.
Well, I mean, it started from training camp. Lundestrom at the wing next to Ryan Getzlaf, and how awful Lundestrom looked at the wing.
Yeah.
And again, it's funny because Eakins has talked about how the wing is not that natural for centers. And anyway, all right. It is interesting how this season has gone.
This next question, actually, I double checked right now, and it actually works out perfect because Evolving Hockey now has their contract projections updated for this upcoming summer.
Can you shoot me the link for that?
Just go to Evolving Hockey and go to contract projections under tool.
Making me do work.
Yeah, under tools. Under tools is where you go for it.
Making me do work.
Brian Felix at FelixB725 said, question for the pod, what are your predictions for RFAs and Getzloff contracts this offseason? So let me just go ahead and I'll run through kind of the players, and let's just see what Evolving Hockey says is the predicted term, and let me know if you think on point, high, or it will go higher or will go lower. So Max Comtois is the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Evolving Hockey has him predicted at 2 years at 2.639 a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that it will maybe be a little higher than that.
More term or more cap hit?
I mean, I could see 3x3.
So so if you go to so at the end it gives kind of average term and average cap hit, and if it's around 3, if it goes up to 3 years, then it's going to add money to it, and it will be $3 million a year.
Yeah.
The thing with a bridge deals can stay lower in number because you're going to have to pay that up later. And so guys are willing to accept less money in the shorter term if you're going for a 2-year deal.
The issue is that I don't have the years where these guys become UFAs in front of me. I would have to get all that up. But my gut has always been $3 million in terms of cap hit, because I'm comparing that to the Raquel contract. And I think it's one that the Ducks signed. He has almost the exact same production from that year, and from the year where Raquel signed his second contract. And so that to me is close to what he'll get.
So
he's not going to get the 3.8, but he'll get close to it.
I believe Comtois will be a UFA in 5 years, is I believe what it is, but don't quote me on that. But I believe 5 years is when he becomes a UFA. So 3 years takes him within 2 years of that. So I would say, I think honestly that 2 years at 2.6 makes sense. Let's see the other name that
you're agreeing with the 2.6.
I think so. I think a 2-year term makes sense.
Well, okay. So your thought there, just to clarify, is that he will get that cap hit because of the lower term.
He will get that cap hit, yes, because basically the way that bridge deals work is players are willing to accept or will take less money for a shorter term because they know that they're betting on themselves essentially, and then the next contract they're gonna make more than that is essentially what they're thinking.
Well, because
there.
I mean, if you look at the Raquel contract, he got 6 years at 3.79.
If he would have taken 2 years at 2.5, where would he have ended up after those 2 years?
So his bridge would probably have been, if he had done a bridge deal, would probably have been what Evolving Hockey is projecting here for Comtois.
Yep, exactly. And so I think if you're the player, you want that bridge as compared to that 6-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Getzloff, 1 year at 2.07.
That to me sounds almost exactly what I would guess.
Yep.
Like 1 year, I mean 2, maybe a little lower, but he's not gonna. I mean, I don't know where I read at some point this season that he could still fetch like a decent salary after this year, and it's just like it's not happening.
You want a fun one?
Yeah.
Sam Steele, 2 years at 2.1 mil.
Yeah, I just don't understand that. I mean, I guess he has put up some points.
Yep, exactly.
But man, even at that number, I'm kind of like
the main reason there is, I mean, I did this little.
He's a former first round pick, which helps.
I took a quick look, and if you compare his numbers now as compared to what Troy Terry put up last summer, he's significantly better. I mean, 45 points in 126 games. So he has 126 games. He has that going for him, whereas Troy Terry had 46 he's at 46 and 125 now. So
I mean, like if Sam Steele has a higher cap hit than Troy Terry, which it sounds like that's what will happen, because Evolving Hockey's contract projections are usually pretty accurate.
Yep.
And so, man, it would just be insane if Steele's making more than Terry. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising because of everything that we know, but just in terms of how much value they each add on the ice, respectively, that disparity would bug me a little bit.
Yep. Max Jones, 2 years, 1.5 mil.
That sounds exactly correct. Yeah.
Yep. And Isaac Lundestrom, let's see what they have.
1.016
for 2 years. Also seems about right. Who else are big ones here? Volkov is another one. So, I mean, I guarantee...
They have him on 1 year.
Makes sense, honestly.
Yeah. I think he probably wants a prove-it year so that he can then...
No. They have Volkov on a 2 year. So 2 years, 0.86, so $860K. Oh,
yeah. Why did I think 1? Yeah. I mean, that also kind of makes sense. Volkov is a little... He's 23. So...
Yeah,
the 2 years will take him closer to free agency. Because I think he's turning 24 this year.
Josh Mahura, 1 year, $780K cap hit.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these contracts are kind of nothing contracts from the rest of the way.
Yep. So I think cap friendly. I mean, so that kind of gives you an idea of what to look forward to. And so let's move on to this next question.
I still think Comtois will get higher than 2.6, by the way.
If he gets more years, then yes. It depends on
It's funny because his agent is already campaigning on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't follow his agent, so I guess I should.
Well, there's people in his agency that are already campaigning for him. I mean, it's just funny.
Yeah, we'll see. I could see him getting 2 times 2.6. I could see Comtois holding out, honestly.
But what would he hold out for, though? Like, what does he want? Does he want 3.5? 4?
Well, I think it's the same reason why I think the issue here, and now here's the big question mark. If Bob Murray's handling this negotiation, which that's a big question mark if he's still going to be at the helm by the time these deals are being negotiated.
It's really adorable that you think that he might not.
Got to hold out hope somewhat. But Bob Murray's notorious for guys that don't have arbitration.
For alienating RFAs?
RFAs with no arbitration.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Raquel and Lindholm. They both held out. Yeah,
well, Richie.
Yeah, Richie. Every single notable RFA, now that I think about it, has really, without arbitration right, has held out.
I don't think Montour held out. Did Montour? I think they settled right before arbitration.
Yes, and so that's my point. Is he had arbitration rights though?
Yeah, but they didn't actually go to arbitration.
But every single notable RFA without arbitration rights has held out the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I think.
So an agent from...
I guess Terry hasn't, technically.
An agent from the agency that represents Comtois tweeted out today that they said Comtois' team leading 14th goal of the season accounts for 12.2% of all goals scored by the Anaheim Ducks, the highest percentage of any RFA left winger in the
Oh
NHL.
yeah, I
It's
saw
like,
that,
yeah,
and it was like very so specific.
it's like obviously that is completely biased
Yeah.
towards Comtois, and also ignores the fact that the Ducks have like, the second lowest goal scored in the league, or the lowest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you can't take what these agents say at face value, but you can read between the lines that they're already campaigning
Yeah,
for
and
what should be an interesting negotiation.
Alex McKay asked, which D should the Ducks protect from Seattle, and which D will Bob Murray actually protect? And do you think the Ducks will lose a D-man? And then he also had one final portion of this. What number do you think Zegras eventually wears?
So I think for the protection, I think they will protect D-men. I think that they will go 4-4,
I
and
agree.
I think they will go Fowler, Manson, Shattenkirk, Fleury, and I think the Ducks are. I mean, if I had to guess who the likeliest guy to be claimed from the Ducks is, it'll probably be Josh Mahura.
I think it's Sam. No, I think it's Sam Steele.
Okay. I mean, make the case for Steele over Mahura.
Steele has 125 NHL games and has points. Mahura does not have that many NHL
Yeah, but
games.
I mean, don't we have some kind of assumption here that the Kraken are not going to be a team that just looks at points and games played?
And haven't we discussed that Josh Mahura's underlying metrics aren't exactly that fantastic?
Well, they've been good. I mean, they were good last year, again, in a small sample.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Steele's numbers have just been god-awful. And so maybe that'll scare them away. I mean, the thing with Steele, though, is that if you want to be a Steele optimist, is that he's been in a very brutal environment, and he does have, I guess, somewhat of a skill set. I still don't really think it's a deep toolkit. He doesn't have overwhelming speed, or doesn't have overwhelming strength or skill, but he is kind of a crafty player. And maybe the Kraken tell themselves, hey, this is a guy that maybe if we get into our system, into our development path, that we can maybe rehabilitate this player. But I think Mahura is still a guy who has some kind of promise. He still has potential that hasn't been totally tarnished by what he's, by his NHL experience. So if you think they take Steele, I mean, go for it. But I don't know.
I think they take Steele over Mahura, and if both those options are available to him, I think it's just Steele. Both of them are prospects, but Steele, I think, is more of a known commodity when it comes to prospects. And so,
yeah, what is known about him?
I mean, it's fair
that he struggled at the NHL level,
but at least he seems more like an NHLer than Josh Mahura does. At this point in
nominally, yes, he has played in the NHL more.
Yeah,
but when he's played, it hasn't. Now you're running because you're wrong, but that's fine.
Dalton Keys, by the way, brings up that you left out Lindholm from your group of D-men, but yes, Lindholm is in that group.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And
what number Zegras will eventually wear?
Actually, no. So if they protect Lindholm, then so if they protect Lindholm, maybe the guy who would they expose then? Because you got Fowler, Manson, Shattenkirk, Fleury.
Oh no, they don't protect Shattenkirk.
Okay, so you're saying Shattenkirk gets exposed?
Yeah, Shattenkirk definitely gets exposed.
I mean, would Seattle take Shattenkirk?
I mean, I doubt it.
I mean, he's on a very reasonable contract.
I mean,
maybe he'll have 2 years left.
Depends on what they're looking for. I mean, the thing is with Sam Steele, you're getting potential, I guess, at least, whereas Shattenkirk, you're not.
You're just not getting potential.
It's either Sam Steele or I mean, I guess here are the options for Seattle from the Ducks.
It depends what Seattle's trying.
It's going to be Sam Steele or Max Jones, and then you could also get Danton Heinen or Sonny Milano or Josh Mahura or Kevin Shattenkirk.
Yeah. Well, my whole thing is if they go out and get Shattenkirk, that helps their kind of short-term competitive window, while also not completely hampering them cap-wise.
Yep.
So,
they're also not going to be in a rough spot cap-wise. Expansion teams are never in rough spots cap-wise.
Well, but they're still forward. Like, you're still looking ahead to the future, and you don't want to do anything that's gonna, like, for example, let's say if the Ducks left Fowler out there, which I know they won't, but if they did, Seattle doesn't take. I still don't think they would take him because of that contract.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that's why Henrique and Silverberg are not going to be taken by Seattle.
Yes. So to answer the question, I think they go 4-4, and one of Mahura, Steele, maybe Shattenkirk gets taken.
I mean,
I think that's the group of three.
Or Heinen or Milano.
I mean, do they protect Lundestrom?
Yes.
Because if you're going 4 forwards, you're in a tough spot there.
You protect Raquel, you protect Terry, you protect Lundestrom, and you protect probably one of Steele or Jones.
Yeah. I mean, who would you protect of those two?
I guess Jones. I don't know. I don't have a huge preference.
Jones's numbers have kind of cooled off a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I don't have a huge preference for that fourth one. I mean, my big issue is that by going only 4 forwards, you're really leaving a lot on the table. Whereas if you were to go 7-3, you could really protect everyone that you would potentially want to protect.
I feel like the advantage of the reasons they're going 4-4 don't make a ton of sense. I think it's more so just they have this fear of losing these guys, and
well, you don't. Here's the thing,
and by these guys I mean the blue liners.
They're not gonna leave Manson unprotected. If that was the end game here, then you move them at this deadline, even if they weren't getting what they wanted.
Yeah,
like you don't basically leave Manson unprotected. Like there's just no way that
watch
happens.
them protect Derek Grant.
Oh my! If they did, oh,
it might happen.
Oh.
I want it to happen now just to see your reaction.
Oh. All right, so let's get to some questions from the Twitch chat. So for those of you watching on YouTube, yes, we're on YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/crashthepond. If you want to subscribe to us there, it really helps it a lot. If you want to also hit the like button and watch the videos there, it really helps out a bunch. Or are listening on your favorite podcast services. The real fun thing we do is a live stream of the show each and every Sunday at 8 p.m. at twitch.tv/crashthepond, where you can interact with us live and throw in some questions in our Twitch chat when we get to the question part of the show. And so for those of you in the Twitch chat, start throwing in your questions in there and throw some throw something at the front so it's just easy for me to follow. Kempafu adds, non-Ducks related question, how long until Bobrovsky becomes the highest paid backup goalie? I mean, isn't he already?
Well, Spencer Knight got to start, right?
He got a win. Debut.
Yeah, I did see that. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like I was chatting with some friends yesterday about like just the NHL as a whole, and I feel so out of the loop because of being in not only the divisional format, but also I just feel like this year more than ever, maybe just for me, I don't know, you're probably not like this, but I just have felt so like dialed into just the Ducks, and the kind of daily ins and outs of this team that I feel like I just really haven't kept up on the rest of the league.
No, I agree.
And I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is.
Yeah. By the way, real kind of side note here. Is the 2019 draft potentially going to go down as being one of those elite drafts that we look back on? That top 10 to 15, the guys are already in the NHL kind of making a difference. You have, I mean, Jack Hughes has become a very good player for the New Jersey Devils. You have Capo Caco, who's been a little bit of a bust in New York so far, but he's still so young that he
has improved this season, I believe.
I mean, Kirby Dach has been an important player for Chicago. Bowen Byram has been a really good player for Colorado. And then Cousins, 13 points in 37 games. Zegras is where he's at right now. Cole Caulfield's already scoring goals in Montreal. You have Spencer Knight starting 3 games so far.
What has Cole Caulfield done?
Scoring goals. Scoring goal.
His first NHL goal, game winner in overtime. Can't draw it up any better.
Singular. But like I feel like this draft is going to go down as being a great one. I mean, will the Kings look back at and regret taking Alex Turcotte?
I mean, will the Oilers regret taking Philip Broberg at number 8?
I mean, Detroit maybe with Moritz Seider also, though he's had a really good year in the SHL.
Yeah, isn't he in the AHL?
No, he was back in the SHL this year.
Okay. Well, yeah, he's been getting rave reviews, so it sounds like his development is going along great. I mean, it's funny how it has happened so quickly for the 19 class to kind of start looking, because it was getting written off, I would say, with the way Hughes' rookie season went in particular.
Yeah, so Moritz Seider had played in for Rogel in the SHL and had 28 points in 41 games in the SHL as a defenseman. So very, very good. And Cam York, I mean, Alex Newhook is going to be a very good player. I mean, there's a whole lot of talent from this draft, and I feel like we're going to look back on this first round from 2019, and I mean, there's going to be a whole lot of really good players that came out of it.
Yeah, it's funny because if you look at the 2018 draft, I feel like it's been a lot more kind of up and down. I mean, Sveshnikov in a redraft, do Sveshnikov and Kachuk go like 1-2, or Quinn Hughes go 1-2? I mean, I don't know. Like, I just feel
Yeah.
like the way that Dahlin
I
has
don't
gone
think
in Buffalo.
I don't think Dahlin's the first defenseman off the board if you
Yeah, and
redraft
I
it.
feel like that's unfortunate because Buffalo's been such a train wreck. And I feel like defensemen maybe get affected by the team performance even more. But yeah, it's just interesting how that has gone. Anyway, I mean,
Yeah.
I could talk draft forever.
Yep. And so this is the three-part question from NJ Devils fan. First question's basically only for me. War Games this Wednesday. Who wins? So AEW is having their blood and guts between the Pinnacle and Inner Circle on Wednesday. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic match. It's been a really fun build for it. I go back and forth because the Inner Circle has basically lost every big match that they've had. I mean, they lost the Elite in the Stadium Stampede. Jericho is losing to lost to Orange Cassidy. You had Jericho and MJF losing the titles, and Jericho obviously lost the title to Moxley. But I mean, the Pinnacle are hot, and I feel like they could use a win to set them up to not look like jobbers. I really don't know which way it's gonna go. I want to say Inner Circle comes out on top because they've lost the big matches before. So I'm going to go with the Inner Circle. He also said, what do you think of the AHL's Pacific Division being the only one doing the playoffs?
I mean, it's good for the Ducks.
Yeah.
It's good to see the progression of their prospects. So yeah, I mean, that's a good thing.
We should mention that the AHL announced that there would be no Calder Cup playoffs this year, and the divisions would have the opportunity to create a playoff for their division only. And the Pacific Division is the only one doing that. So the playoffs will be specifically for the Pacific Division title. And I think John, I defend the nest. I know you're in the Twitch chat. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe that all Pacific Division teams are going to be a part of it. And so Jamie Drysdale was sent down on deadline day, so he will be eligible. I checked Cap Friendly the other day, and he was sent down in a paper transaction to the taxi squad. So Drysdale and Zegras will be eligible for that. Third one, and we mentioned this actually on our Patreon episode, so if you want more talk about the NHL's TV deals, go listen to our latest Patreon episode. But it said, will there be any AEW NHL crossover with the Turner deal? And I made the point, bring in Chris Jericho. His dad played for the New York Rangers and I believe the Chicago Blackhawks maybe the Winnipeg Jets. But Jericho definitely knows hockey. His dad played in the NHL. He's a guy that can elevate, basically just talk his way out of anything and make anything entertaining. Bring in Chris Jericho to call a game. There we go.
Sure.
There it is. SJ Hockey said, is Fleury that valuable to go 4-4?
No.
But I think here's the thing.
But that's why they brought him in.
Yes.
Like, they value him. I'm not saying that that's why they brought him in, but the fact that they brought him in means they'll protect him.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't bring him in if you're not planning to protect him.
I mean, they also gave up
nothing. Next to nothing.
And a sixth-round pick. But
next to nothing, but yeah.
I think they have identified him as a guy who they want to see what he can do and potentially be part of that next wave.
Yep. And Defend the Nest asks, how do you like God, I will do that forever. Simon Benoit, and hashtag Benoit Smash. This came from Defend the Nest.
Wait, sorry, what was the question?
How do you like Simon Benoit so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, in his first few games, he wasn't that noticeable. Like, he didn't really do a ton, especially in the first game. But as the sample size is kind of built out a little bit, I think that you can see the mobility. You can see some of the puck handling ability. I don't think that his first pass is necessarily the bread and butter, but it's definitely not a liability either. And I think he's been a good addition. But I'm still kind of waiting to see a bit more of him to have a stronger conclusion, because he just hasn't really stood out that much one way or the other, which is not a bad thing, by the way.
Yep. Good friend of the show, Ken Pafu, asks, Felix, specific question. Will Montreal extend Corey Perry now that he has an A?
Well, part of the reason he has an A is because of all the injuries that the Canadians have. I mean, like Gallagher is out, Weber is out, Tatar was out, so they have a lot of bodies out. I don't know if they're going to extend him. I mean, I think they might want to, but they have so many contracts that they need to re-sign over the summer. And they also have another class the year after, right? They have to extend Kotkaniemi this year, and then Suzuki the year after that. So it's going to be a challenge, and I don't necessarily know how that's going to go.
Yep.
So I don't know if they're back. Hey, maybe the Ducks bring back Perry on a tiny contract.
Let him finish off the year or finish off the career as a Duck.
I think that would be really cool if they did that.
I mean, they are paying him already. Just pay him $1 million anyways. Lewis X209 with a completely off-topic question, which I love. Favorite kind of cheese?
Ooh, that is a hard one. I mean, it depends. Like, what's the scenario? Like, in what context? Like on a burger, I love like cheddar, for example. Just in like, yeah, sharp cheddar, extra sharp cheddar is awesome. I do love brie cheese. Maybe this is a bit of a highbrow kind of.
Oh, brie cheese is great.
Kind of a snooty take.
You ever had brie cheese on a burger?
I may have.
It's good.
To me, there are a few things just more enjoyable in life than just a piece of brie cheese on a piece of bread, like French bread. It's just, it doesn't get much better than that, to be honest with you.
Yep, and nothing like something like
people
cheese.
Put Monterey Jack. Monterey Jack is fine, but like, there's just so many better cheeses.
Nothing like cheese talk to bring out the comments in the Twitch chat, though.
Also, fresh mozzarella is very good.
Defend the Nest is John is after your heart saying poutine cheese. So
yeah.
Cheese curds.
Cheese curds are very good.
Yeah.
But they're not the best.
All right. So this question from Ang Young, which we actually, I think, also discussed.
Pepper Jack is good. NJ Devils fan. Good addition there.
In depth on the latest Patreon episode. So if you want kind of more discussion about this, go check out that episode. Go check out the Patreon. But Power being ranked number 1 this draft, and with Owen Power being ranked number 1 this draft, and say the Ducks win the lottery, would you consider trading the number 1 pick to like Columbus or Detroit for maybe their 4th through 7th pick and one of their later first round picks and take a flyer at getting Beniers, Johnson, Gunther, Eklund with that 4 through 7?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, this is the year to trade down if you get that habit pick.
We discussed this on the last episode, but yeah, I believe it. Yeah, Columbus and Detroit are the.
We didn't talk about this specific scenario with Columbus, but we did talk about, I think, trading down.
I mentioned Columbus specifically on the Patreon episode, and you thought that Yarmo was too smart to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they would do it, but if they really wanted Owen Power, or maybe the Blue Jackets will do what they always do and take some off the board guy at number 1, take Simon Edvinsson number 1.
Yeah.
And the Ducks ended up getting 4 and whatever the second pick would be in the first round.
Columbus right now has Tampa's pick and Toronto's pick. Detroit has Washington's. And
likely you're getting like 4 and 29 or something like
maybe
that.
Maybe 32.
To me, that I would do that in a heartbeat.
And I mean, we're seeing, for those somewhat paying attention to the U18s, Sasha Pastuyov has been tearing it up for the U.S., and he's a player that is currently set to go in the 2nd or maybe 3rd round, depending on where you look.
No, he's a first rounder.
Oh, there are plenty of places that don't even have him in the top 32.
That's silly. That's silly.
But Hockey Prospecting has him as one of the top 5 players in this draft.
Well, Brant Clark has been really good at the U18s as well. It's funny that this is a year where the U18s I feel matter so much more.
Well, it's because we haven't been able to see all these players really.
Exactly. Like I feel like this is a year where I've paid attention to the U18s more than I ever have, which is not a lot, by the way. In the past,
I don't think I've ever even paid 1 ounce of attention to the U18s.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is funny because it is an important tournament, but especially this year.
Yeah.
So yes, to answer your question, that is definitely a great idea. Yeah. I don't know if they would do it though.
Yeah. I mean, Dalton Keys asked, but do we really think Bob Murray will pass on drafting Owen Power? I mean, that assumes that Bob Murray's still the GM. Just going to put that out there.
Give that up. He is coming back. He's coming back.
If he is not, oh man, I'm dancing on your grave.
I mean, if he is not, I'll be happy too, because I'm ready for this franchise to be led by someone that like has a 21st century mindset, hopefully. But
wow.
Well, what do you mean?
Just straight up calling out right there.
Yeah, Bob Murray has a dinosaur approach. Yeah, like we know this.
That's fair.
Okay. God. But gaslighting a
bit. Maybe. But yeah, I don't think the Ducks would pass on Owen Power. And honestly, I mean, Owen Power is definitely going to be a good pick.
He's a good floor pick. Like, yes. I think he has a high floor.
Yes.
I just don't think he increases your ceiling at all.
Yes. Get Matty Beniers. I'm all aboard the Matty Beniers.
I mean, I think Matty Beniers is kind of a floor play too, but I think that position has, like, having those kind of forwards is more beneficial than having like a floor type defenseman.
Here's the reason why I think Owen Power is defensible right now. Same thing with Matty Beniers, which are both floor plays. they would both be kind of paired with guys that are high ceiling plays. And so it's not it in the sense
you mean for the Ducks?
For the Ducks.
Yeah.
The fact that Owen Power would be with Jamie Drysdale, Zegras and Matty Beniers would be the two guys down the center position. No. And so I think that sets the Ducks up for success long term. Nate is throwing in the Twitch chat Luke Hughes or Riot.
No.
I don't want Luke Hughes.
Luke Hughes is not like I don't think he might go in the top 10, but
that ankle, it's his Achilles, right? His Achilles injury is a bit
sketchy. He's got really bad injury, history. Like he does have a nice prospect profile, but apparently there's some off ice issues there. Like it's not great. I mean, the thing, I mean, I would take Eklund or Clark before Power or maybe even Beniers. So there you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll have plenty of draft talk coming.
So now we have people in our chat. It's insert prospect name or Riot. So we got Luke Hughes or Riot, Dylan Gunther or Riot. Who's next?
Yeah.
Who's next?
Yeah. Exactly. So I think that's probably going to do it for us tonight on the questions.
Jesper Wallstedt or Riot. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Imagine the Ducks drafting Wallstedt.
We should just for Christian Charbonneau mention Fabian Lysel, who's the guy.
Kind of like a rising name, I think.
I mean, if for anyone in our Discord, you will know that name has been thrown out there for months and months and months because Christian is a huge fan of Fabian Lysel. And give him props. He's a guy that has been tearing it up at the U18s and making him look like a very smart man.
Yeah, this is not the year, though, to kind of just hold on to that first-round pick, at whatever cost. I think that if a team approaches you with a deal like that, you should really either consider it or do it. But either way, I mean, it's not something you can just overlook.
Yeah, O-Dog with the right opinion, saying Eklund or Riot. That's the correct opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Eklund is you can see the upside.
Yeah,
there's an upside argument there, and like I've said in the past, that to me is what I value the most with the first round pick is someone who could potentially change the course of your franchise, not just someone who will. I mean, I hate to harp on this pick because I think he's been fine this year, but like drafting Isaac Lundestrom in the first round in 18, it's like it's a guy who'll play, but what's the upside there really? What's the potential there to really kind of change things up? And look, that's my philosophy. I'm not saying that it's the only way to look at this, but I think that if you look at teams who have drafted for upside, they tend to do a little better, I think.
Before we head out real quick here, do you want to quickly touch on the comments about Getzloff potentially retiring, about him being over the hill?
No, I'm gonna leave that there.
Okay.
I mean, I think Getzloff's been good this year.
Yes, I think that was more so what I wanted to say. Getzloff has been very good this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, the points, the production hasn't been there. It's kind of, you can say that about a lot of Ducks forwards, but if you look at his two-way game, if you look at his impact defensively and offensively, just in terms of like shot volume, shot quality, he's still been an impactful player. I think he's had kind of a nice bounce back year from his impacts last year and the year before that. And that to me is a positive sign. And if the Ducks can get him on that kind of cheap 1-year deal, it could end up being a really nice value contract, especially as maybe the team improves around him. Now the numbers right now, they're not quite as good as they were at different points this season, but they're still like, he's still above break even in a lot of these different metrics. And
now up on the screen, I have his player card from JFresh, which has him. He's basically been over the course of the last 3 years, been in the 60th percentile for WAR.
Yeah, and if you look at the trend for this year, like he's taken a step up.
Well, the only issue is overall WAR has taken a step down. He's in the 25th percentile this year.
But that's mostly because of shooting.
Exactly.
That's because of the lack of finishing.
Exactly.
And that is something that has been an issue for the entire team, and that I think is mostly, I mean, not mostly, but like there's a lot more variance there.
Yeah.
And so the fact that his actual impacts have improved, that is a good sign.
Yeah. And so that's kind of, if you're looking at the screen right now.
So I mean, all of that to say though, that the conclusion that he's over the hill is just
incorrect.
incorrect. Yeah, objectively.
I mean, you can see, so basically for anyone looking at the screen right now, WAR percentile rank, you can see that go down, but this bottom right hand side, you can see his offense is still up in the, I mean, he's still well above the 75th percentile in terms of even strength offense, which just shows you how good offensively he is. And his defense has actually taken a step up to be about the 50th percentile. And the only thing that's come down is finishing, which comes down to playing with not exactly guys that can put the puck in the back of the net. He's never been a guy that's basically been good at finishing. That's something we can all agree on it, and we all know. And so the real the real kind of drag down is that he hasn't had consistent line mates who can score.
Exactly.
And I think that's where the finishing has really fallen off for him.
And the thing is, it's also happened to a lot of guys in the team. And so I don't think they all became just bad finishers overnight, right? Like there seems to be something systemic there. But yeah, the Ducks should re-sign Getzlaf for a 1-year extension and also bring back Perry.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Getzloff and Perry, and this is not meant to be a shot at them.
Give them a farewell season.
Getzloff and Perry on the fourth line.
Yeah, like that would be infinitely more, if nothing else, entertaining than like a Grant Delorier fourth line.
Getzloff, Perry, Raquel again on the fourth line. Although hopefully Raquel has moved in the offseason, that actually can't happen. You know what? Bring back Bobby Ryan.
Yeah, you can bring back all three this offseason.
Bring back all three this offseason. Give us a Ryan Getzloff Perry.
What is it? Is the RPG line? Is that what it's called?
The RPG line. Bring back the RPG line.
They're all making $1 million each.
Do it. You know?
That would be great.
Like this is what they need to do.
Not Dustin Penner.
No,
not Dustin Penner.
No, stop.
No, please,
stop,
God,
John.
no.
John. Yeah, Bobby Ryan, like, come on. This needs to happen. Buy out Grant, buy out Delorier, get him out of here. Give us a fourth line of Bobby Ryan.
Delorier's contract is up, isn't it?
No, he has another year. Because remember, he counts for the 40-70 or whatever it is, now 30-50, whatever it is. He's under contract for another year after this one because he was signed to a 2-year extension to basically fill that role in the expansion draft exposure requirements. And we should make mention of that for anyone that is looking at the expansion draft thing. The checkmark on Cap Friendly's thing for the Seattle expansion draft trade machine thing, if they have that check mark next to them, that doesn't mean, or if it's not checked next to them, that doesn't mean they're not eligibly selected. They're just not, they haven't played enough games where they will meet the exposure requirements. Because I've seen a couple people be confused.
So Bobby Ryan will be a free agent?
Yeah, Bobby Ryan signed a 1-year deal in Detroit.
That's right.
Are you tweeting this out right now?
I am, because that's really funny.
It is.
It's really funny.
This needs to happen.
It does. I'm so glad that we like pieced this together.
I think Dalton Keys was the one who mentioned Bobby Ryan. So thank you, Dalton, for putting that in there. This needs to happen.
Yeah.
But what number does Bobby Ryan wear? Does Bobby Ryan go back to 54?
I would,
because number 9 is retired now.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, he'll have to go back to 54, or I don't know what else he's worn.
I mean, he wore 6 in Ottawa because it was 9 upside down.
I don't think anyone else is wearing 6.
I think he wore 54 in Detroit.
Yeah, so yeah, go 54. Well, yeah, he sure as heck ain't wearing 9 in Detroit, so.
Yeah, at this point, give me that. Give me a fourth line that's entertaining and at least warms my heart.
Yeah, and who knows? They might even be better. Just like look at the way Corey Perry has played this season. Yeah. Look at the way Ryan Getzlaf has played this season. That might not even be a bad line.
The only way that will happen is if Bob Murray's gone, though.
Yeah, well, because he's for sure burned bridges there.
He burned bridges with Bobby Ryan for sure. I mean, Bobby Ryan called out Bob Murray on a golf course once. And then you have there's definitely a burned bridge with Corey Perry, you would think.
Oh, well, I mean, it couldn't have been couldn't have been the most pleasant ending.
No. So, yeah, I think that will do it for now. Let's end with that because that's a fun note to end on. Positive Sunday. It's
been a positive Sunday. Look at that. Look at us. Look at us. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that we would have made it this far? All right. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think I'm all good. I mean, the only thing to add is anyone listening to this, we will be doing our watch along this week. We are potentially going to do it on Wednesday, but that is not set in stone yet. So we are going to do one watch along this week for a game, and then we're going to do a watch along later on in the month for a playoff game is what we're going to do for the 2 watch alongs this month. So for anyone subscribed to the Patreon at that tier, expect that to come out soon.
Okay, well, you heard it there first. So if you wanna support the show, if you've been enjoying what we've been doing here, you've got a couple of ways to do that. So Jake brought up the Patreon, patreon.com/crash the pond. So for $1 a month, you get access to our patrons only Discord chat. It's a lot of fun. You get to connect with other diehard Ducks fans. We do chats in game, going back and forth there. We'll also just talk about random stuff around the league, whatever it is. For $5 a month, you still get access to that chat, and you also get access to 2 bonus episodes a month. And that will be where we do league-wide topics, where we'll talk about, deeper dives into what's going on with the Ducks, specific topics there. And if you are a patron, you get to throw in suggestions into the Discord chat. And so we will get into those on the bonus episodes. And then for $15 a month, Jake already brought it up, but we do 2 watch alongs a month where we do a live broadcast of 2 Ducks games. Now in the off season, clearly there's not going to be any Ducks games, so we're going to have to find a way, but we are going to keep that tier. We may do some playoff games, around the NHL. Maybe we'll just make it that. Maybe we'll do some throwback Ducks games, but the patrons will have a heavy hand in deciding what we'll do there. So that's at patreon.com/crash the pond. Now, if money's a little tight, that's totally understandable. You can always leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you leave us a review, we'll be sure to read it here. You can also follow us on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube so you can get the video version of the show.
By the way, ODog81 with a very good one. An AEW pay-per-view watch-along.
No, that isn't happening.
I think we might have to.
No.
I think we might have to.
We've done it before, in a way. We have. Jake once forced me to watch.
It was AEW's best pay-per-view they've put on. Also, it was Full Gear 2020 with John Moxley versus Chris Jericho, Young Bucks versus Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega. Just some great things. Great things.
Okay, so I'm really happy that we got to talk about that again. It's okay.
It was a great show. It was a fun podcast. That was just before full lockdown.
Was it?
Yeah. It was like end of February, early March.
Yeah, that's right. That is right. So anyway, what else was I going to say? Yeah, make sure to check out our website, crashthepond.com. Follow that on Twitter at crashthepond. We've got 5 takeaways after each Ducks series. So, hey, we still got a couple more here coming out.
Expect kind of once the season's over, I'm going to start sitting down and finally writing that expansion draft preview. We'll probably have some draft profiles going up.
Yep.
Everything that you kind of need, a preview of maybe a little bit of what to expect with the draft lottery. We'll have some off-season content coming your way. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. So with the draft coming up, with the expansion, everything like that, there's still going to be a lot to talk about. So this show it feels like, with the games ending, we're thinking, oh yeah, things are going to wind down, but it never really stops. And until we get to like July, August is when things kind of start slowing down after free agency.
Yep.
So yeah, and then follow us on Twitter. Jake is at ReindeerGames91. I am at Felix_Sicard, and that will do it for us this week, folks. Have a great Monday. Have a great week, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.